today's informational briefing was to talk about the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling and what next. What next for the legislature, what next for the state and OHA and the clients. And we wanted to hear from Attorney General and, of course, Bill Behebula on the case. Right now we're faced with looking at policy on the sale of ceded lands and the transfer of ceded lands, and there's many different discussions that's going on within our colleagues. So what we wanted to do was hear from the parties themselves as to what is next for them. And as you heard today, they're working towards a settlement, and they proposed to us legislation which would require on the sale of ceded lands 2/3 majority through House concurrent resolution, and they wanted to keep in place the disapproval process for the transfer of lands. And the only difference in that they would like to change is that there would be a notification to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and they would be the one to notify the Hawaiian community. But as you heard with the members of the committee, there's much concern as to the possible challenges that could occur with an approval process. It could be looked upon as special legislation, like the super ferry legislation. And with the disapproval process, there's also some uncomfortableness with many of our members, as well as myself, because in our process, it's very easy to kill a resolution. It could be one person that holds up a resolution or don't hear it, and it's dead, and that particular transfer could move forward. So there's many concerns on the table with a disapproval process and an approval process. As you also heard today with the moratorium, maybe we just need to take a pause and set a moratorium to protect the trust, and maybe put a working group together to work on a policy that we're all comfortable with. That's on the table as well. This Thursday we have Senate Bill 1677, House Draft 2, which is going to be on the floor for third reading, and it's been moved to Thursday because we're having this discussion. And I don't know if you folks are aware, on last Friday I tried to recall Senate Bill 1085, which calls for a 5-year moratorium, but I had to ask on a motion to suspend the rules to do that, and we failed by 11 votes. So there's many things that are happening at this time, and with 4 months of discussion on this particular issue, I think what's important right now is, what is the policy? What is the policy going to look like? And as you heard today, it could benefit one side of the party or not. And I think that's why the parties are working towards a settlement. Of course, they haven't talked to their clients, but they're proposing some kind of legislation where it's a compromise. We as a body still have to have that discussion, and anything can happen in the next couple weeks, especially in conference. But what we don't want is that nothing happens, because then when the injunction is lifted in the Hawaii State Supreme Court, the lands can be sold. And as you heard today, there could be concern for lands being sold to balance the budget. So there are many different things that happened today, but I think what's good about this informational briefing is we want to educate ourselves. We want to hear directly from the parties, but more importantly, educate the community as to what's going on, because there's many different versions that are out there. And I don't think that we're going to get 100% on anything that we do, as you heard today. But I think there is some concern as to what that policy is going to look like, and we do want to protect the trust.
So at this point, are you inclined to support the settlement proposal?
At this point, I'm open to looking at it. However, I am still in support of a full moratorium. I'd like to see a moratorium with a time limit to give the legislature to put together a working group. And I think that being said, that is being talked about among our colleagues.
If there is not enough support for a moratorium, is this then something you might be able to support?
If that's the case, yeah, possibly. I like the approval process better than the disapproval process, and a lot of that has to do with perception. And the only thing that was missing from this proposal that I didn't like, that is in the House draft, is that should lands from a certain community be up for sale or transfer, that there would be a public hearing so that the community could be informed, and that wasn't in the proposal. So might want to look at that as well.
That was in the House draft for the disapproval, right?
Yes, yes,
That there needed to be a public hearing.
yes.
One question I had was, Bennett seems to fear that there might be a legal challenge on the 14th Amendment. If you did a moratorium but were real clear to the public that it was a moratorium based on wanting to input more information, i.e. community input that was kind of neglected, would that even be a remote possibility of a lawsuit? It seems to me that as long as there was a process whereby it was being open to the community, why would anybody in the right mind challenge that? To me, it
You
seemed like a
know,
weak argument, but
My
that's
hope
just-
is that there wouldn't be a challenge because of a sunset date. But you just never know. There are a lot of people who love to sue, so it's hard to say. But I would think that there would not be because we're looking at consideration and it's not a full moratorium where it would be forever. And the other thing is that the legislature always has the ability every year to introduce legislation to change that.
Yeah.
So it's not like it would be
Still.
set in stone if you have a will of the legislature to change that. So
Correct.
while he may say there's a lot of 14th Amendment challenges that could possibly happen, there's also the other side of the breach of contract with the fiduciary duty to Native Hawaiians. That could also happen as well. So, to use that argument, I think when we look at policy, we have to protect the trust. And that should be our main purpose, is protecting that trust. And what does this mean if it's an extraordinary situation in selling or transferring lands, So it just depends who you talk to.
About the 25, or not 25, in the exchange scenario, there would be a notification of OHA as soon as the legislature got word of a resolution. How do you feel about that? Is that something that you see a benefit for?
I see it as a benefit. However, at this time with OHA trying to work towards perfecting their ability for land management, for consultation with Native Hawaiians, we have to also give them some flexibility to formulate the best way to deal with that. And I don't know if they're ready for it. However, I do see it as a benefit because if you put it in law, you're mandating them, and you have to, I think, be more elaborate in what their responsibility is to Native Hawaiians, particularly on the notification to Native Hawaiians on specific lands.
So you think there needs to be more refinement of the process of notification?
Absolutely, yes.
Is there a reason why OHA wasn't here today?
Yeah, I was asking the same thing, and I don't know.
You asked them.
We asked Sherry Broder, who represents OHA, and we know that she couldn't be here because of a conflict in schedule. But I'm not sure, because it's a public notice and we let everybody know that we're having this, so I'm not sure if it's conflict of schedule or I'm not sure. You may have to ask them that.
But
Yeah.
did your office contact OHA's administrative
We
office about it?
only contacted Sherry.
Sherry.
Yeah.
Okay. Being the
Because
attorney.
we wanted the attorneys, yeah.
Just in general, or how do you feel about a settlement of that's just the fact that they're discussing a settlement appears to be coming close to something that they all can agree on.
If the clients agree on it, I can live with that. I can. I think the fact that they're discussing some form of settlement is a good thing. Again, the devil's in the details. What does that mean? But I do think it's a good thing.